All right, IG, we're live. Let's get this in position. Happy Wednesday. We're live. Back at it. 12:30 Wednesday. Another big week. Another busy week. So we're going to be talking about a new topic today. Piggybacking off of the many things that we were discussing about moving the needle in the business. Say hello to a couple of people. What's going on? Chris, how's everything? Going to be seeing you soon, my man. Caroline, Amy. Line up your questions today, because this is a good one. This is something that I don't think it gets discussed so often from a lot of clients that we speak to, because their focus sometimes are in specific areas. But this particular topic of how to stay relevant, how can you keep your business relevant in just today's world? On the digital side, we're going to focus on the digital side. If we cross over a little bit, well, we cross over, but it's more so on the digital side, because that's who we are, that's what we specialize in, and that's basically what I can really give advice on. So if you got questions, start posting them. When it comes to relevancy, it falls, or it could affect so many different areas of the business. And when we're focusing really on the online presence, that's really what you want to pay attention to, right? Do you want to look like you're, I love it. I'll use this analogy. It just came to mind. I love when I go to websites and the look and feel is like back in the day when Netscape Navigator used to be relevant. And I'm not quite sure how many people watching this remember Netscape Navigator. But that was like a big browser back in the day. And you know what? We come across websites that still have some of that look and feel. You immediately lose the trust and the credibility from then your audience. So we're going to touch upon that a little bit more. We have a question here. Differentiate themselves using digital media. So great question. One of the main here, let's scroll up a little bit. Utilizing digital media to start to create some separation with your business is by showing up and being active, really. That's really number one. Being consistent and just showing up, The thing is if you're not consistent and you're not constantly engaging or putting out good content, then how could you really be relevant? How could you even know what might be going on in today's market when you're not there, when you're not active and present and getting involved in conversations? So by being active and putting out good things on a consistent basis is going to help you stand apart, right? So the followers that you may have, the new followers that are coming on board, they're going to see what you're doing, and they're going to be learning from you, and they're going to see that you're constantly showing up. So that's one of the most important things is just, and that's probably one of the most easiest things to do is simply show up, start engaging. That's would be number one. Another question here. How have you continuously adapted in 25 years? Yeah, that's a good question, because 25 years, man, that's a long run. I've seen so many things in 25 years. And here's a quick story to the point of adapting, right? I remember when we first started, I just used the term web designers. That's I guess who I was. I was a web designer. I did graphic design too, but I was a web designer, 1999, 2000, I'm a web designer, And one day, I was at a family party, and we were talking about, I guess, what I do with somebody I know. And at that moment, she was saying, oh, she worked for the schools or something. And at that moment, she said, well, I'm a web designer too. I was like, you are? And she's like, yeah, I just, I update the website for the company or for the school. I was like, man, that doesn't make you a web designer. I was almost insulted, I was like, I got to change this title, because that's not, we're much more than that. We just don't do updates, right? At the time. And at that moment, I refused to call ourselves web designers at that moment. And we're going back a number of years. I mean, this could be 20 years. And I refused to label ourselves as that, because we were much more than that. And I believe at that moment, we considered ourselves then the multimedia company. That's what we were, multimedia. We evolved a lot, and we had to adapt to stay relevant, and we continued to evolve into today's landscape of digital marketing. We saw the change. We knew we had to pivot and adapt, because if we didn't, we would be the one-trick pony just doing websites. And there's people that actually just do that, but I felt like we could do bigger and better things and more. We could be more complete as an agency. So we had to adapt. And you have to look at those things while you're continuing to develop as a company and evolve. You have to look at opportunities, and you have to look at what might be trending in your industry and where you may have to pivot, change lanes a little bit to continue the growth of the company. And I think that's smart in any type of business. No matter what type of business and industry you're in, you have to take a look at and have the foresight a little bit to say, okay, listen, if we want to do bigger and better things, or we want to start now expanding into a different audience, we need to take on a different service. We need to start maybe getting involved in some sort of different area here that may be completely unfamiliar to us. And that kind of brings us back to last week's topic of building the rock star team, is now hiring for the need and getting someone involved who could accomplish that. So you have to think about those things to further adapt. Let's see. We have a topic here: how important is SEO in regards to staying relevant? SEO, something near and dear to my heart. Here's the thing: when it comes to SEO or any sort of Google marketing, you want to go ahead and target keyword phrases that are relevant to not only to yourself and what you do, but also take a look at what's going on in the industry, in the marketplace. So if you see something might be trending and you want to start to jump on that bandwagon to start poaching on that traffic, then go ahead and start changing the strategy a little bit pertaining to those keyword phrases. Start putting out content related to those keyword phrases as well. That'll help in the SEO game. And it'll start to go ahead and shift a little bit of that direction into the new area. So you can utilize certain SEO topics and keyword phrases that might be trending to capitalize on that new audience and something that might be hot. And of course, you can piggyback social when it comes to that as well, and kind of further support what you're doing in that direction. So, Dr. Martiniak, so how do you counter that, right? Things are getting a little bit slow. The economy is starting to hit, Hopefully we see a turnaround with that in the near future. Hopefully, things start to change. When things slow down, I am always a big believer when it comes to thinking outside the box, not sitting back and waiting, but creating your own, surge of either business, of traffic, of, you're steering the ship, right? So if things slow down, I'll give you an example and we'll go back to it. I know I'm always going back and forth, but I leave myself breadcrumbs so I could find my way back. 2010, probably the worst year of the company. The worst year, right? Extremely slow, come in probably at the real tail end of the recession at the time, 2009, start to slow down. It was tough. It was extremely tough. There was a lot of relationships that we had that kind of fizzled out and dried up because we had a lot of partners at the time. You know, when I built the company in the mid-2000s, there was strategic relationships and partnerships that I made. So I didn't have a sales team. I didn't need it because we were being sent work from these other agencies, which was great at the time. But then when that all fizzled out because everybody started to go internal and who didn't have the budget and whatnot, we lost those relationships. The point of my story is that coming off the worst year of the company, I decided to do something completely different that I'd never done before. Now, this is not, you know, rocket science here from what I'd done. I decided to get involved now with networking associations, and I opened up our Tarrytown location in the beginning of 2011. Really rolling the dice. I got to get out there. So 2011, the beginning of 2011, what was I? 12 years into the business. It was the first time I ever decided then to start advertising, right? I started to hire people in my mind at the time that made no sense for my company because I could not link them to revenue at the time. Social media was born for us in 2010, and content development, we brought back SEO when it had a hiatus there in the early 2000s. And I started to do networking events for the first time. The point is that I started to invest more back into the company, even though we didn't have it, even though we never done it before. But I could tell you right now, 2011, our revenue doubled from 2010. We started to do new things. We had to. We had no choice. I had no choice. We had to think outside the box, you know, and we started to create new relationships. That's one thing you said here, when you get the right people in place and stuff. Yes, starting to bring more people in that made our team stronger. Hey, we might have taken 2 steps back, but, you know, we know what's going to happen. And I'm going to say that we had to go through this type of process once again in 2022 by choice. Not because, you know, we were in a similar situation like in 2010. It was that it was time for us to come up with a game plan to set the stage to scale once more. And 2022 into a little bit into 23, we started to adopt new practices, new staff members, and really shake things up completely. And there's always that hesitation. There's always that you're afraid, you know, of doing that, really disrupting what's going on. But because of that, we're able now to take multiple steps forward. We had to take some steps back. So don't sit there, James. Don't sit there and say it's a slow time and it'll just happen on its own. It'll come back. Yeah, it's going to come back at some point. But that time in between, what are you doing about it, though? That's the thing. What can you be doing differently now to start generating more business? And there's many different things. Obviously, we could talk about offline on strategies there. But you just can't sit, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. That's it, right? Great question, and you know, it's something that many people are in the same boat in today's economy. But at the end of the day, you want to try and stay relevant, start putting things out there, or getting involved in different programs, campaigns, whatever it might be, to keep your business relevant, but always keep an eye out on what new things you can be doing. That's the thing. So as we kind of wrap up now, the red light went on over here. That's Clyde's red light. I want to leave you with that. Keeping your business relevant is extremely important in 2024 if you want to move the needle. If you want to move the needle, you have to stay relevant. You have to be taking advantage of all that's out there when it comes to digital. Your web presence, key, always going to be the hub, the foundation, the resource, the 24/7 online representative. I've been saying that for 25 years. It has to be polished and it has to represent the company. Take advantage of all of these social channels that are free and put out content. Engage, get your business out there. It's important to be relevant to show your audience how you're different. Okay? We're going to talk next week. We'll be back 12:30 Wednesday, and I'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.